the St. Louis now.
Oh no! Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at two battles. First one, you can see we are in the Kuma, and then we jump over into the Zhao on the other end of the spectrum. But first of all, in the Kuma, you can see we are grouped up with Dorj today, and we're on Big Race. I really enjoy the Kuma. I think at Tier 4, this is one of, well, it is the best cruiser, in my opinion, at Tier 4 to have. I kept it. And, you know, I cruise around it every now and then, especially if I, you know, ever come across the need to have a Tier 4 ship, or even, you know, like today, if I'm just messing around, you know, looking to get some extra credits, because that's essentially what Dorj and myself are doing here today, just messing around in ships, you know, getting the victories, getting the credits, and the experience that goes along with it, to ever further the endeavor, you know, of more ships. And speaking of more ships, we do see that the public test server has gone live today as of 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So, you know, if you haven't tried it out, go over and hop over there and test it out. There should be some things that surprise you. German battleships are coming anytime now. Cannot wait. You know, I'm speculating that it's going to happen next week. I have no, you know, no insight on that whatsoever. So, pure speculation on that part. I would imagine next week. Probably, given that test server's up, right? That might run for a week, and then that'll put us to the end of the week, and then there we go. Anyway, moving along in the old Kuma, and we are on Big Race today. Now, this is a you know, zone, and you don't see this map mode, or this game mode, I should say, very often. In fact, you only see it at the low tiers, and it is interesting. It is an interesting game mode, and it definitely does work. I would say work at low tiers. Wouldn't work at in a high tier battle at all, because, you know, the ships are so powerful that to get ships into a zone that is this you know, small, really is quite small, you know, it would just be a massacre. So yeah, doesn't work at high tiers, but at low tiers definitely fun. I mean, the idea here obviously is to keep at least one of your ships, friendly ships, in the zone. After the timer runs out, then you know, the ships in the zone will start capping it. Obviously, if the enemy puts a ship into the zone while you're in the zone, that blocks the cap, vice versa. But the zone does take very little time indeed to fully cap out, so you do got to keep an eye on it. Mostly, you know, if this was a, you know, standard battle that we were playing here on Big Race as a Kuma, you know, I'd probably try and go down there into Destroyer Alley. Maybe not all the way into Destroyer Alley, but at least poke about around there and take some shots off at some enemy destroyers, but that's not how you play the zone. Anyway, we're cruising in and around the islands here. You can see, just taking a look at some of the enemy ships that have, excuse me, that have popped up, and, you know, deciding what enemy ships I want to start firing at here. So I do see a Quachi over there, and yeah, considering firing at the Quachi, but you can see as well that I do have the Phoenix in the background targeted, and I'm, you know, have been firing a few shots off of the Phoenix as well. Just kind of poking them at this point in time. You know, I really don't want to get too close. It's the same thing with, you know, your higher tier cruisers as well. You know, right at the beginning of the battle, you really don't want to get in close. Now, it's not such a big deal, because at these tiers, you know, ships don't necessarily have a good range. But there are certain ships that do, so you do still need to be very careful. So you can see we have an enemy ship here that's going to quickly be coming around the island. There we go. Enemy ship is gone. Our allies were all over that, so fantastic. Don't need to worry about the player. If we look at the mini-map, we can see that the enemies, no real surprise here, are you know, mostly grouped up over on the east side of the map. I didn't fire off my torpedoes because you notice I have a friendly destroyer in front of me, and that potentially would have killed my friendly destroyer, so I wasn't willing to take the chance. We'll let my friendly destroyer get in there, and, you know, that player's probably going to be launching his own torpedo strike anyway, so whatever. Find another target here that is within my torpedo range. So the torpedo range on the Kuma is, of course, 7 kilometers, and line up on that target. Now, yeah, doesn't happen anyway. My allies take out the player. Oh well. We still do have the enemy Wyoming off in the distance that we can put shots into. If you know, I actually manage to hit the damn ship, we can start setting some fires to this player, and this will be awesome as well, because, you know, below tier, the Kuma does have quite a few guns. We can see 6 guns when you are firing on the broadside, right? that you can fire out and potentially hit enemies, do some decent damage. I mean, it is a Japanese cruiser, so it has some great HE damage capability. And on top of that as well, I mean, you have some great armor piercing capability as well. So if you do come across a very soft target like a cruiser, specifically, you know, a Phoenix, Karlsruhe, Svetlana, you can easily switch over to your armor piercing if that player is giving you a broadside and start racking up some nice citadels. The Kuma is a great cruiser tier 4. We see the enemy destroyer off in the distance, so you can see that I am cascading some fire in on the player, managing to land a few of those hits, so that's pretty good. Doing a bit of damage here to that player. Just trying to get the destroyer out of here. Destroyers at these low tiers I find incredibly dangerous, more so maybe than at high tiers, just because at these low tiers, you know, the ship that you're in, whether it be a cruiser or a battleship, is a pretty old type of ship, old standard of ship, so it's not as fast, not as maneuverable, whereas the destroyers, sure, you know, they're a little older and a little weaker than the higher tier counterparts, they are still much faster, more maneuverable than you, and you can quickly find yourself up shit creek without a paddle because a destroyer came at you. Anyway, we see the St. Louis off in the distance, put a few shots into the St. Louis there, hoping to get a few hits, and yeah, one of them. Better than nothing, I suppose. I do ask Dorge at this point in time, you know, what exactly was this enemy destroyer doing here, just sort of driving straight into the wall. Not 100% sure what took place there. We can see an incident of friendly torpedo fire, unfortunate there for the ally who ran into those friendly torpedoes, but it is something you need to watch out for in these low tiers. People, you know, who are learning to play the game or who aren't necessarily that great at the game but have been playing it for quite some time, you might find those people in these games, and you know, they still haven't figured out torpedoes as of yet, so gotta be careful with these guys. You can see that Dorge is just on my starboard side, right? We're both sort of converging here on this enemy destroyer. Again, not 100% sure what this player was doing or was going through the player's mind, but okay, alright, whatever, that's fine. You know, I like the damage and the kills. Now, I am outside of the zone at this point in time, but it's not necessarily that big of a deal because you notice I do still have allied ships in the zone. Now, we'll also notice that we have begun capping the zone, but the zone is no longer being capped, right? It's being contested. So there still is one enemy, at least one enemy ship still within the zone there as well. We caught a quick glimpse of him down there on the minimap. We can see it's enemy cruiser who's actually still in the cap, and frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if the enemy destroyer was still in the cap. We have a Miyogi off on the, what side are we on? Port. Yes. I'll say port. Off on the port side, and putting a few shots into that player. You can see one of my allies did manage to get a pretty nice shot in on that Miyogi as well. The Wyoming is still over there, so we're going to put another shot into the Wyoming, hoping to obviously set a few more fires. There we go. There's another fire on the Wyoming. Hopefully that'll burn for its fruition. We do have more shots going into the enemy Miyogi here as well. These early battleships, tier 4s, not so much the tier 3s, because there's a big difference between a tier 4 and a tier 3 battleship, but still, you can't underestimate these tier 4 battleships. Even the Miyogi is a pretty damn decent tier 4 battleship, once it gets fully upgraded, that is, which that one is. We can see it, right, the hull is upgraded, and that's really what you're looking for on the Miyogi. If you come across a Miyogi that does not have the upgraded hull, chances are that player, not the player, rather the ship, isn't going to be fully upgraded, and it's going to be fairly limited, so you're going to be able to easily rack up some damage on that player. Whereas, you know, if he has the fully upgraded hull, we can see the Progdota Tower. I probably got that wrong again. You know, he has a bit more armor there, and the guns are a little better as well. Anyway, putting shots in on the Karlsruhe, we get a nice little fire there on the Karlsruhe as well. We can see St. Louis coming around the corner, but we are going to focus on the Karlsruhe for now because the St. Louis is on fairly low health, and in fact the St. Louis just went down, so that's fantastic. We do have the last remaining enemy destroyer, and actually the enemies only have 4 ships remaining, so we're quickly going to call this one a victory here, but the last remaining destroyer on the port side, we do need to take care of this player here, you know, fairly dangerous, and there we go. We can see torpedoes are in the water for us, but we don't need to concern ourselves too much with them because they are going to miss. We do manage to get the kill there on the enemy destroyer as well, which is pretty great. We do see the enemy Langley off in the distance here, so we're going to start engaging the Langley. We can also see some of the planes coming in for us. The Kuma doesn't have, you know, that great of AA. I mean, AA at tier 4 isn't too important. You do get 1 fighter plane on the Kuma, which isn't too bad. I mean, it's better than nothing. But generally speaking, I mean, the AA on the Kuma should be enough to at least disrupt the aim of the enemy planes that are coming to you, and at least give you a better chance of a little more survival there. I'm going to continue firing on the enemy Langley. I do see the St. Louis in front of me who is firing at me, so I'm going to present a small target, hopefully as possible, to St. Louis, and then, obviously start launching off some torpedoes. Because if the St. Louis does decide to drive in a straight line, at the very least, those torpedoes will be on the way for him. So there we go. Enemy Langley is down. Dorge managed to kill on that one, so fantastic. Good job there. And we are going to just, start focusing down the St. Louis, last remaining enemy ship. At the same time, we are capping out the base. It took me this long to actually mention Dorge is in the Nikolai, the Tier 4 Russian premium battleship. I don't have one, but man, it is one hell of a little battleship at Tier 4. I wouldn't mind getting myself one because that thing looks pretty impressive at Tier 4. Anyway, battle is over. Victory is ours. We did manage to snatch ourselves a nice Confederate medal out of this as well, right there at the end, which wasn't too bad. Did a little extra damage to the St. Louis and managed to pull out the Confederate. So 171,000 credits isn't too bad. 62,000 damage as well. Top of the team overall. Dorge came in third, which is pretty great. We, did decently. I did manage to get 2 kills here as well. Shoot down 2 planes. Oh yeah, pretty impressive. We can see how the damage was spread out there amongst the different enemy ships. And of course, when all is said and done, I do walk away with 152,000 credits. And of course, my commander gained another little skill there as well, which wasn't too bad at all. So moving into the next clip, you can see we're back with Dorge as well. And this time in the Zhao. Dorge is in Montana, and we are on Two Brothers. I struggle to get victories in this Zhao. My God. It seems, I don't blame people, obviously. When you do get in, when I do get in a battle with the Zhao here, everyone recognizes the Zhao and they try and take it down fairly quickly, and you get focused down and it's usually fairly tragic, but doesn't mean I don't enjoy playing the ship. The Zhao is really something else, and again, I would highly encourage everyone to get themselves one. It's not a bad cruiser at all. On Two Brothers, in Zhao, in Tier 10 anyway, I find it strange. I've always associated Two Brothers with as being a Tier 7, Tier 8 map, not necessarily Tier 10, but anyway, whatever. Very familiar map. So we're going to go ahead and try to own face on this map here, see what we can do. So we have Dorge in the Montana, so this is fantastic. Obviously, I'm going to be able to count on some heavy fire support, which will be fantastic. And obviously we are going to head over here to the west side of the map, the A cap point first. Just taking a look at some of the enemy team composition there, seeing what is going on and how they are grouped up. Now we do see the enemy cruisers on the enemy team, 3 Tier 10s, and they're all in a platoon. So this is going to be interesting. Dorge and I were discussing this, and obviously making them the first targets that we want to take down if they do happen to come over here on the west side. Chances are they will. We're in a division, they're in a division, and I believe the division spawn on the southern side of the map is a western spawn as well, so most likely they're going to be pushing to the north where we are, so we got to prepare for this. One of the things I don't like having happen, obviously, when I'm in a cruiser is getting spotted right away. I did want to stay, obviously, pretty close to Dorge. There is an aircraft carrier in this battle, and combined our AA is going to be unstoppable, while the Montana's AA is spectacular anyway without my Zhao support. But still, I didn't want to be the first person targeted, and I didn't want to sail in a straight line away from the cover, so I am going to head back over to this side, the eastern side, I suppose, of A, work it in amongst these islands for now, let the destroyer that we have here off the starboard bow, let this player go into the A cap zone and sort of scout it out for us, see what's going on over there, right? We do note there is only one enemy destroyer on the enemy team, which is fantastic, because I don't know about you guys, but I have been seeing a whole crap ton of destroyers as of late, and I've been thrilled about it, frankly, because I'm usually in a cruiser in those games, and just popping destroyers is great, but a lot of other people have been complaining. So we can see some of the enemy ships pop up in the distance, North Carolina, Des Moines, Zhao, so we know instantly, yeah, the enemy platoon, the 3 tier 10 cruisers, are definitely all over here. Now we do see some massive damage that was done quickly to the enemy North Carolina there. We caught a quick glimpse of it. That was Dorge with an initial salvo there, so it was pretty fantastic. I put in some shots into the Zhao, no fires, but about 4,300 damage on that salvo, which wasn't too bad. I kept struggling in this battle actually to time my armor-piercing shells properly, because I really wanted to get some armor piercing shots into some of these cruisers, considering there are a number of cruisers in this battle, but I love the HE so much. It's yeah, on the Zhao, right? The Zhao. Anyway, we are going to start, combat maneuvers, we'll call it. Basically, not necessarily circling around, but zigzagging around on different sort of planes, whether it be east to west or north to south, just to keep the enemies off of us as much as we possibly can, because we can see some pretty hard-hitting enemies over here in the distance. There are a lot of battleships in this game we do want to keep in mind. For as great as the Zhao is, as awesome as the ship is itself, it doesn't have the armor. At the end of the day, it's still a cruiser. When you compare cruiser armor to battleship guns, which cruisers were never meant to take on battleships by themselves, it doesn't work out very well. Enemy Des Moines off in the distance looked pretty good for those torpedoes there, and then sadly none of them hit. I was a little heartbroken there for the Allied destroyer who had to witness that as well, because that would have been pretty spectacular. But whatever, I get a few shots into the Des Moines. We do a bit of damage there, so I guess. Now we have the enemy Montana off in the distance. Again, lucky here that we have Dorge in the background providing the heavy support. Yes, that was Dorge once again. So fantastic. We have the enemy Montana down to about 3/4 health, which isn't too bad. You can see took some big shots there, big hits there from the enemy Montana. So my main priority at this point in time is going to be to set the enemy Montana on fire as quickly as I possibly can. This, of course, is because the enemy Montana most likely is repairing. The enemy destroyer pops up here as well, and I didn't want to miss the opportunity of firing at the enemy destroyer, right? Cruiser, kind of my job, fire at the enemy destroyers, take them out. There's only one, and if we can take out this one Kagero here, this will go a long way to help us out, I believe. Plus I had mountains coming in, so I wasn't really able to continue the fire on the Montana, but the Montana is still on the radar, right? We can still see the player over there off in the distance. Once I do get the clear shots here, we'll definitely get some shots off into the Montana. I always do struggle to range American battleships on the first salvo. I don't know, maybe it's just the way that I find it looks like they're going faster than they really are, so I end up leading the target more than I should. And this, for me, this starts at the North Carolina up to tier 10. I find it pretty easy to figure out the old, any American battleship up to the Colorado, because they move so slow. So it's pretty easy to figure out. No, they're not going at a good clip. Not to lead them too much, but above tier 8, yeah, it's tier 8 and above, tricky for me. Anyway, enemy destroyer does pop up. We can see we put a few shots into the enemy destroyer. While all of this was going on, of course, I did continue to put shots in the Montana to no avail, doing basically minor damage with no fires, which does kind of suck. And I was explaining talking about this with Rommel high explosive shells, and saying how much I've been liking the Russian cruisers so far, and that I've been getting Witherer medals a whole lot more in these Russian cruisers, which I've never gotten before. And he was asking why is that, and obviously it's the high explosive, burning targets down. It's crazy, but the trick obviously is to have the shells land on the deck of the ship to set the superstructure on fire. If the shells land on the side armor of the ship, that's not really going to do anything. That's obviously the trick to the high explosive shots, right? As long as you can get those shots in and start aiming them, you can set fires very, very easily, especially with the Zhao. It's just right now with that Montana, I really struggled. Anyway, we have a Yamato off in the distance, so we're going to start engaging the Yamato there as well. We do see the turrets. I wasn't too concerned about the turrets, to be honest with you. I do have some heavy-hitting ally support in the background, specifically Dorge, so I did want to take out the Yamato as quick as possible. I mean, I'm a Zhao, and the Zhao really, really does excel at burning down Yamatos. I mean, Montana's as well, but it's... The reason is the Montana and the Yamato, they're so massive, right? They're very wide. They have a lot of girth to their superstructure, so it's a little easier to actually hit these ships and keep them on fire. So yeah, definitely want to take down the Yamato as quick as I possibly can. Plus, this Yamato, kudos to this player. I mean, as maybe short-sighted as the play is right now that this player is making, kudos to actually be a Yamato driver, have your ship in full speed and actually come at the enemy, as opposed to being a Yamato driver, putting your ship in a full reverse and slowly backing away from the enemy. Yeah, kudos to this player. Anyway, shots go in, continue to set fires to this Yamato, which isn't too bad. We're about 84,000 damage so far in this battle. I mean, definitely not as not the highest earning damage battle here, but still not too bad considering I haven't actually gotten any kills as of yet. Yamato was almost down, and really want to focus down the player at this point in time, because you don't want to give the battleships time to use their repair, their heal ability that is, and to start healing some of this hit points over time. That would suck considering all of the work that was put into bringing Yamato down that far. Anyway, Yamato goes down, so this is fantastic. We find ourselves looking at a Tirpitz going in reverse. Not sure what was going through this player's mind either, but whatever. We're not going to correct our enemy here during battle and point out their mistakes. This would be impolite, so we're just going to fire in some high explosive into the player, and hopefully this player will go down quite quickly. You'll notice that we do have aircraft. We had some aircraft in the air there. It was getting pretty hairy, but we're able to shoot down most of those aircraft, which wasn't too bad at all. We do see an enemy battleship off in the distance that we have shots going out for, and we're catching a quick glimpse there as well of the enemy aircraft carrier. Fantastic. Maybe one of my allies will be able to take out that enemy aircraft carrier. We're putting shots in on the Amagi now as well, but keeping an eye on some of the other ships out there as well. I mean, the Amagi is obviously going to be the easiest target at this point in time, driving in a straight line. Why the hell not? You can see one of my allies did do a bit of damage there to the enemy Amagi as well. We can see the enemy aircraft carrier, which is fantastic. We can see the planes coming in from the enemy aircraft carrier, and quickly all of these planes are going to die. We have an enemy North Carolina pushing in on this point at this time. Not really too big of a concern. Mostly for this entire battle, we managed to keep cap parity. Really, at the beginning, we did catch all three caps there, but the enemy did push back. But over here on the west, we managed to at least stop the enemies, right? The enemies did take the point back from us, but they weren't able to push any further, and they're still not able to push any further. Enemy North Carolina is gone. Don't need to worry about that player. We're at about 980 points at this time. Victory is all but ours, right? The enemies really don't have too much left in them. They still do have their destroyer, though, so there still is that threat for the 10 seconds that'll be remaining in the battle. But still, you don't know. There could be torpedoes in the water, so you want to always be sort of on your guard. We see the enemy aircraft carrier about to get shots off. Victory is ours. Not a bad game at all. A really, really nice sort of blunting action that we did there on the west side, which is something that you do want to try. I mean, you don't get too hung up on pushing the point and taking the cap, right? You want to be able to focus on actually stopping the enemies where they are. So we can see when all is said and done, right, how the damage broke down. I think it was a little over 100,000 damage, which wasn't too bad at all. When all is said and done, though, I do end up walking away with 16,000 credits. But a victory nonetheless. It is quite expensive to run your tier 10s, but as long as you do at least 100,000 damage, you should walk away with some credits, even with no kills. Anyway, that is today's video. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Obviously leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. Love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you were not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.